Okay, so today in this video we're going to talk about how to mount a door sash. This is a SmartWin door sash. We've got the frame here, and then we'll also do another video on how to take the sash out of the frame, removing the hinge pins, and we'll also discuss adjusting the strike plates so the door closes and the lock functions properly. Okay, so here we have laid out some of the tools that you'll need. They're not 100% necessary, but it's going to make your life a lot simpler if you have these tools. So we've got a simple hammer. We have a 4mm Allen wrench. This is a long one. We like this. It's 350 millimeters long, so that's about 12 inches. But any Allen wrench will work. But we like these T-handle ones. So if you can find one of these and have in your toolbox, this is a very nice tool to have. Okay. We have a T20 handheld screwdriver, and this is just a separated bit here, insert bit. We've got a small chunk of wood that we will use to drive the hinge pins in. And the reason that you want to use wood for that is because sometimes these hinge pins may be coated or painted, and we don't want to damage the paint with our metal hammer. So you'll use a piece of wood to drive those pins in. Okay. Then if you need, for some reason, to take the pins out, we've got a couple different drifts or punches. These are more like a drift. A long, narrow punch would also work. Okay. We have these wind bags, which are very handy in the window installation business, and a really good tool to have. Okay. We've got wood shims. You may or may not need some of those. We have some high density fiberboard. You could have foam, high density foam, or some sort of material that's fairly soft, and you'll see why here, what we use that for in a minute. Suction cups for the glass. If the door has glass in it, you can use these suction cups. Will help you lift the door. You can also use these suction cups on a full slab. They also work well on coated wood. Okay, I would recommend 4 of those. We have our handle, and we also have our hinge instruction sheet. And this is always in your installation manual or maintenance manual. And it looks a little bit different than this, but basically you look at this area here and 3D adjustments. And we have different languages here, which is common these days in instructions. You look for the English EN, and it talks about how to adjust these hinges, and I'll also show you in the video. Okay. We also have a step stool. Depending on the height of the door, you may need this. Doors that are around 8 feet, you really need a step stool to help with those top pins. Okay. So before we install the door sash, we want to make sure that the hinges have these white washers on both sides. Okay, they snap in there, but occasionally they may get bumped and they could be lost. Okay, they can come out of there, and I'll show you. See, that just comes right out of there. This is a very important piece of the hinge. Okay, and so we got to make sure that those are installed in the top and bottom of each hinge. Okay, if they're missing, you need to call us and get another one. Okay, and as you're installing the sash, you want to make sure you're not putting too much pressure on that hinge. That white piece is sticking up ever so slightly. It's like a lubricating bearing, and if we knock that with the leaf, the hinge part, we could pop those off, and you may not even know it. It may be laying on the ground and you don't know what it is, but that's really important. Make sure those stay in there. Okay. Okay, so this door has no glass in there yet, but if it did, or was a solid panel, we want to use our suction cups at this point to move the door around. And like I said, it's always a good idea to have 4 of those, 2 at the minimum. And you need a good helper. Okay. Most of our doors can be handled with 2 people, but sometimes if they're quite large, you may need another person, okay? And one other thing I want to talk about is the bottom there, what the door is setting on. We don't want that setting on anything hard, abrasive. They may create a wound in the bottom of the door and our painted surfaces. Okay, these doors have a nice wood coating on there for protection. And our exterior, if you ordered a door that has exterior paint, not aluminum, but it's a paint, it's a fairly soft paint. It doesn't like to have excessive pressure, okay? And if we create a wound by mishandling the door, it may cause problems. If the door gets wet with water on the exterior, it may cause swelling and basically a nasty looking blister. So you have to be really careful with the bottom of these doors. And it's important too to think about the installation on your doors. You pay a lot of money for these doors. They're very nice. If you install the door early on in your project and it's used heavily during the construction process, the potential for this door to be damaged is quite large. You should consider a temporary door or another route of entry into the building and store these doors until the building is nearly finished, okay? So we have our soft protection on the bottom of the door so we're not damaging it. And we're gonna go ahead with Kyle's help. We're gonna install this and put our pins in, okay? So we're gonna slowly move this over to the hinges and try to line things up, try to work together. We normally like to do one at a time. So whatever's easiest is working. The top one is going in quite easy, okay? And there it goes. We didn't have to do anything because we did a nice job on the bottom there. So he's gonna go ahead and put that top pin in. Doesn't have to be installed all the way, just a little bit. And then we can work on the next ones. So in my opinion, it's a good idea to do the top one and then the bottom one, and then you can fill the other ones in between. Okay. Okay, so now here's a good instance. Those 2 pieces are not quite lined up. There's a little bit of warp somewhere. So this is where our 4mm Allen wrench comes into play. And if we read our directions, there are clamping screws, and it'll tell you which ones are the clamping screws. So you'll notice we have all these holes drilled in the frame, and these are for adjustments. And we also have 2 screws, 2 of these that are for locking. They basically clamp the hinge so it can't move. So when this is clamped, you can't make any of the adjustments. So in order to move this hinge, we have to loosen those clamping screws. And we have the center hole. It's the hole just below that. We just loosen it, and it's the hole just above the center hole. Now the hinge, we can move this hinge and line up that pin. So Kyle will go ahead and he can push that pin in there. It'll move and float. See how it floated? Now do not forget to lock those back. And you can see why this long handle works so well, because it gets you away from the door, okay? Okay, so now we have our wooden block and our hammer, and we can finish driving those pins in. Simply just put it on top of that pin and you'll tap that down. Now normally the doors, when we ship them, we leave the hinge pins up. A little bit more down from this. Oh. Okay, we leave them like this. It makes them easier to remove. Okay, so after the door is installed, you'll want to go ahead and if the door doesn't need to be removed again, you can drive these pins all the way down, fully seat them. Okay, now the door is hung. you can remove your airbags. And we didn't have to move this very much. You can simply roll them off of that. Check the function, make sure it swings good. And at this point, you can check your strikes to make sure the door is locking. Okay. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions, check out our YouTube page for any other technical videos. We may be able to already answer some of your questions on some of those videos. So thank you.